on, and thank you, Robin, for that intro. What I'd like to do is show a bit more numbers and what's behind the numbers that Robin highlighted in terms of practicalities. So next one, please. From an ATC perspective, winter operation does two things that ATC people really dislike. First, it gets capacity away. It's not only runway capacity, it's also terminal, ramp, and taxi operation capacity. And it does that in a very unpredictable way. And ATC and traffic management is all about predicting what things will look like in, let's say, 30 minutes to 1 hour to produce the best possible flow of aircraft. As Robin mentioned, aircraft must be sprayed for de-icing, which means you have to apply de-icing fluid over the aircraft in a short time before takeoff. So once the aircraft has been sprayed, which takes time, you cannot have it wait for too long, otherwise you have to restart the spraying and do the whole thing again. The second point is that runways and taxiways must be clear of snow. And I will come into that in a minute, but it's a huge work. It's enormous areas we are talking about here. And the last part is it's not about surface contamination only, it's also that the visibility is much less, which means you can have more go-arounds. You will have pilots taxiing much slower than normally. So all the things you are used to at your airports, all your normal predictions can get quite off because of winter operations. Next one. An important thing also, especially in terms of solution, is that winter is local but has global effects. The winter is not the same thing in Oslo, Geneva, and Dubai. Obviously, if you are in Oslo, you have de-icing operations, snowing, snow clearance operation every year. Every winter, you know, you have a few months of winter operations. Your team is up to speed. You have hardware, you have the ground vehicles you need, you have everything ready and working. And you can invest into making your winter operation work because it certainly makes sense. If you are, let's say, in Geneva or Frankfurt or Paris, you can have 10 years without snow. You can have 10 years without hard winter operations, which means in terms of investment, it's not so easy because the life cycle of the equipment is not unlimited. You have to invest into de-icing fluid and other things. And you have to keep your staff sharp on running winter operations. And if you have a few days of winter a year, and not even every year, it's not so easy. The press cut on the right was from Christmas 2010, which hit Paris quite hard, and Charles de Gaulle ran out of de-icing fluid. And that they had to cancel flights because of that. And finally, they had to fly in some fluid to be able to restart. So planning for your winter operation in that gray area is not so easy. In some places, you have, for example, agreements with local trucking companies or local farmers to have people being able to come into your airport and do the snow clearing. If you're in Oslo, you don't need that because you have your staff. If you are in the gray area, then you need some special agreements because you cannot afford a full de-icing team being available the whole time. And even if you are in Dubai, you have some effect of winter, not because of snow or winter phenomena locally, but if Western Europe or Northern America is hit by snow conditions and winter ops, it will have an effect on Emirates and all companies flying there, which means you will have ripple effects across the whole network. Local companies will be hit hardly, but global ones will be hit as well because it will have impact on their connecting passengers. It could change the time the peak hour comes. It could mean the peak hour comes differently because a part of the world is in winter operation. And that means there is no standard solution that can be applied to each and every airport. Next one. Even the way airports do de-icing is different from place to place. You can have de-icing at the parking position, so de-icing on stand where the truck comes to the aircraft to be de-iced. Or you have airports which implement centralized de-icing, which means the aircraft taxis out, switches off the engine at a position close to the runway, which is designed for de-icing, where the trucks are waiting and the aircraft gets sprayed there. So already that is a different way of operating, and some airports mix both. Then you have sometimes conditions where each and every aircraft will be de-iced and has to be de-iced. And sometimes you have what we call de-icing on request, which means the surface conditions is not so bad, but the airspace could be a critical aspect. So some aircraft will request de-icing and others will not. And this is also very hard to predict. And quite often in winter operation, the critical resource is not the runway or the taxiway system anymore, but is the de-icing capacity, which is to make the game a bit more complex, not even done by the airport operator, but quite often by third-party companies. So here, technology can help with smarter sequencing algorithms, better capacity management, better prediction, better analytics, but also to help the whole teams to better work together, to connect the people, to give people access to the information they need, and to help people provide the information they have, which is quite critical in this kind of synchronization. Next one. Measuring and managing de-icing is the key here. So the de-icing providers are quite often required to provide data, and this has two natures. They have to provide their de-icing capacity. So they say, okay, on my part, I can de-ice 5, 10, 20 aircraft an hour. But for each and every aircraft, they also need to provide the time where the de-icing can start, so that the aircraft reaches the pad at the correct time, and when the de-icing will be finished, so that we can plan for the next aircraft that has to reach the pad in time as well. And this also helps to synchronize between the de-icing pads and the runways. The question is, how do you provide this information? Is it something that you send on the radio? Is it something that you do per telephone, or do you do manual inputs? Do you record the time of every aircraft? Is it manual? Is it on paper and you get a report at the end of the day? Or do you go into technology and do things like computer vision to detect the de-icing process is started, is stopped? Or do you get signals from the de-icing truck saying when the spray is turned on and turned off? So data is here. And we can certainly use technology here to improve the situation and get better grasp of the de-icing process. Next page. The other factor is keeping the airport and the infrastructure clear of snow and ice and different things. And I know from the outside or from above, an airport can look like a small thing. And the worst thing is that runways look like streets, and you think, okay, de-icing or de-snowing a runway is like a street. This is an illusion. The typical length of a runway at a large international airport is 4 kilometers. This is the length of Central Park in New York. This is more than the width of Manhattan.
All done with isolation as of today. Our symptoms were mild.
Excuse me, there is someone interfering in. I get some extra audio. Okay, let's keep going. So a typical runway length is 4 kilometers. If you drive 60 kilometers an hour, that's 4 minutes. And there is no way you can drive a snowplow at 60 kilometers an hour. So clearing a runway takes, depending on your equipment, on the weather, on the staff available, takes 15 to 30 minutes. And these are let's say the optimal, the planned times. It's not always reality. And there are tons of factors influencing the process and even giving an estimation for these teams, how long it will take to clear the runway, and say to ATC, okay, runway is closed for 15 minutes or for 30 minutes is not easy. It relies a lot on the experience of the people. And here again, if you're in an area with a lot of de-snowing, then your staff gets used to it and they get better at doing estimation. If they do snow clearing operation once or twice a year or every second year, it's much harder for them to provide precise estimations. Next slide, please. What you see here on the left side, to give you an idea of the size of this operation, the picture on the left is in Paris. That's the snow clearing brigade or train. It's 13 trucks and 3 accompanying cars. And that's obviously a non-winter day. That's the best situation. That's the easy task. What you see on the right is the reality of Montreal Airport. So you can imagine driving 13 trucks, one behind the other, in this low visibility with whiteout, with snow. That's not an easy thing to do. Next one. Then here again, if you want to bring technology and better automation, you need to know how to measure and manage snow clearing. Weather data archive are available. Every airport has archives of META staffs. You can get archives of the weather forecast. The weather services have a lot of information available in digital form even. Normally, ATC knows when the runway gets closed for clearing and released, so that data exists, it's available. Sometimes it's available in a digital form, sometimes it's in a paper log, so it's not as easy to get it, but you have access to it. And the last option is that you can do ground tracking of the vehicles. Most have a transponder, or sometimes you have a surface radar, so you can know and extract from that data how long the clearing did really take. And how can we use technology here? Same thing, you can go for better communication, have a better communication between the drivers, between the teams, between the team leaders and the ATC. It's certainly possible to use AI for better decision making, especially when we have less of experience by the humans having to make the decision. There are also attempts of doing autonomous vehicles. There was a nice demo by Mercedes where there was one driver in the lead truck and 12 other trucks following automatically. Once again, it was a demo. It was during a nice summer day with nice weather and good visibility. The technology, I think, is not there yet to have that in bad conditions, but it's a step. Robin also mentioned augmented reality, so help the drivers at night or in bad conditions to know where they are, help the de-icing guys to know how to spray where they are and where to spray again. So there are things to do, and I'm sure Chris will bounce on it later on. Next one. In summer or in nice time, we have now in most of Europe what we call A-CDM, which is collaborative decision making. And that has shown that technology can help make the best possible use of a limited resource, which was so far most often the runways. Data is here and can be captured, and technology can help improving predictability. So the picture you see on the bottom right is probably something from the past at most airports. We try to have as less queuing as possible, and we use A-CDM for that. The challenges of winter are stronger because it's more unpredictable. There is less data and less quality, but data is here and can be captured. So I'm quite sure with the newest technologies that we have now, we certainly can do something to improve weather operations. So this is it for my part.
All right. Thanks, Vincent. And agreed. When you see a runway from the outside, it looks large already, but you still don't get quite the size of it compared to when you actually stand on it. Thanks a lot for your input. So